Hello CIS-30A. I have a few questions coming in about GIF image being animated and you could not do the original code, which was explained in my previous video. So I rewrote the code and I wanted to share with you the new script on how to implement the animation with the label. So unlike the original program, this is what we had. We simply have one static, non-animated GIF that we're working with. So if you downloaded a GIF file that is animated, the original program would likely throw some kind of error, or if you name your file not exactly like how it is written in the script, that also creates error. So this original program that was shown in the previous video works with the GIF file that is not animated, and make sure your GIF file is in the same folder as your program file. So I had rewrote the program. Now when you work with moving image, it's actually different images to show that it's in different, there's movement through different frames of the image. So what we have to do is we have to incorporate or load the frame in so that way the image can be displayed. So unlike the other program, we're going to go ahead and import the content of Tkinter. And we are going to import time, and we wanted for it to be able to sync with the operating system. So on the other one, I import as TK. I'm not using it in this case because we're going to use different component from Tkinter in order to load the frame. So first I have constructed here, root is going to be the object under TK. And frame CNT here is going to be the count 12. Now when you work with different images and when you start playing with this number and these values, you have to read a little bit further into Tkinter and think about how many frames is that original GIF file you're working with. And so in some sense, if you increase the value, sometime that would also throw an error. It won't load the image because you might want more frames than what the actual GIF file contains as far as moving image. So on this one, what I generally use is I have 12. And because it's a group of images that create the movement that constructed together cohesively to show you the movement of the animation. So we wanted to have a list, and that list is going to contain different frames. I, in this particular script, use a file called PC, and I saved it together with this particular script. So I simply state that the file is, make sure that you have the name and the file extension. And the way we're going to format it is we're going to use the index, because the first index, that's going to be for the first frame. That's going to be the first image. And subsequently, we wanted to load the next few, however many indexes, to show the changes in image so that way it creates the animation. With that, we would need to iterate through the indices, so we need to use a for loop. Then we have a method. We are going to update individual image as it iterates through and load each frame. So with that, we're going to have frame is going to be frames of individual image, and we're going to increment the indices each time. So each of the index is going to represent each frame, and so therefore we're going to iterate up to about 12 frames, so that way we can load the actual moving images. So here we have an if statement, if frame is frame count, which is 12, it's gonna then go back to the first index, which is the first frame. Then we need to configure that the image is gonna be frame, because the interpreter is gonna take each of the image and put it, each of the image from each index and put it in the frame. So we want to tell Tkinter that the image is coming from each of the frame. And so we're going to keep updating, and so that way we would have the entire frame, set of frames loaded for our animated image. Now, like the original program, I wanted to use a label on the left to say what that image really is. You can say moving image. You can, in my particular image, it's a Rubik cube, so I can even change this, and I can say Rubik cube. And then we create a widget, which is a label. And because, again, I didn't import TK, so here I simply just use label. And we wanted to justify it left, so that way it's going to be adjacent to our moving animated GIF file. And here we simply just use create the property, have the property set up for that particular label, which is this. It's going to display this text. So that's going to be on the left. And here you can use single or double quotation mark. That is the same. And since we are putting the animated GIF file into a label so it can show, remember that we have to have a back widget in order to incorporate image or even moving image with it. And again, I wanted to make sure that root is passed here, because that was constructed as an object for TK. Then we are gonna go ahead and pack the first widget, which is the image, our animated image, and then we're gonna have it update and continue to loop. So we are gonna go ahead and run this. What you have is here, you have the label that we created, which is the second label, that's Rubik Cube. And then on the right, we have another label which contains a moving animated GIF file. And as you can see, as it loads, it's actually loading individual frame with different indices, so that way you can actually see animated image inside that label. And so this concludes my video, and I hope this clears it up for the rest of you who are struggling with this particular assignment. So if you have an animated file, a GIF file, make sure that it is in the same folder as your script. Also, to incorporate the frames, so that way you can show that it is animated using the label on the left and the label on the right for the animation. And you can play with this a little bit, and you can see if it's gonna work with various files, how you can change up your program to see if it's gonna work. So now you understand and you know how to write a Python script that would display an animated GIF file.